Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about the difference between the product and the project in the software industry. Very often, this becomes a question or a understanding gap for the people who are in the IT industry to understand what is the meaning of product and what is the meaning of project. So, in this slide, we are going to cover the difference between the two. So, starting with the first point, so first is the evaluation. Evaluation is basically it's a product is an evaluation of an idea, which means basically it's an idea which you have in your mind and can it become a product to serve the purpose for a particular business problem or any problem statement which exists in the any particular domain. For example, there are many ERP system exist which are ready-made solutions which are available, and it is there to solve the purpose related to business domains, like for example HRMS, for example school management system, hospital management system. So these are kind of a ready-made products which exist in the market, and there are different vendors who sell these and can be used for the purpose of the meeting the business requirement. However, the project on the project side, it is a kind of a business requirement which comes from the uh, particular business need as a part of the business process, whereby it may not require a full-fledged end-to-end ERP system. It may require some kind of a specific functionality or a business requirement to be developed as a part of a custom software. And of course, it also gives a very option to the organization to go for the project in the way like they can have their custom requirement developed as a software and can be used, and customizations can be done. However, in case of product, it is more or less like frozen kind of a requirement is frozen, and it is a ready-made product with minimum customization. However, configurations are there which can be made in the product to make it more effective as per the need of the business. But full-fledged flexibility may not be there as per the requirement. But products are primarily designed in with the purpose to be able to meet the all the functionalities, all the business needs of a particular business domain. Now we'll move to the second point, that's versioning. So versioning is one of the most important aspect of the product and project as well. So product is basically like, for example, if there is a new product is launched, it it gets launched with a uh, fixed set of features like predefined scope which was identified as a requirement for that particular product development. So it is defined with like for example 10 features or 5 features which may consist of like for example a login module, customer creation, or business or process automation. But when it grows after some time, like there are new features gets added into the system based on the new emerging requirements within the business domain. So in such situations, versioning has to be maintained. So the first rollout becomes the product version 1, and when different features which are going to be part of the product are added, also adds as a version to that particular product. So similarly, there are major version or minor versions. So minor versions could be like first version is 1.2, then there is a version with only one or two small features were enhancements were incorporated in the product. So it becomes a minor version. However, if there is a altogether new module is developed and incorporated into the product as a release, then it becomes a major version. Similarly, in the case of the project basically is like the versioning concept is more or less similar. However, it is limited to the project scope. Like for example, if there is a business requirement which requires a customer module to be developed for a particular organization, whereby they are able to capture the customer personal information, demographics, and their professional and educational information. They kind of get into that development, and the release goes into the production. The customer business will start using the project. However, later on there are some changes coming up in the business requirement. They want some new features to be added or some existing features to be enhanced. Then accordingly new versions has to be maintained. Otherwise uh, there will be overlapping of the features, and historical data may get lost. So versioning, this is how the versioning works in case of the product and project. And moving down to the third point, that is product and project linking. So how the project and product as an entity are linked within the domain. So basically, product can be planned and developed as a single unit and split across multiple small projects. So, like for example, if there is a ERP system which needs to be developed, so but it could contain a scope which has a end-to-end functionality starting from the login to uh, the complete business requirement, which may consist multiple modules like login, customer, uh, personal information, application processing, or whatever functionality it is primarily focused on. But the same cannot be developed as a one go. So how in case of such big product or a small, even in case of small product, these are split into different small projects and assigned to the separate teams. So they are tracked as a small project. However, once they get completed, then they are merged to form a single product. In case of project, uh, so it is a basically a subset of a product, we can say that, in case if it is required as a product linkage. However, if there's a project is working, it's a standalone, it can be a standalone entity as well, like based on the business requirement, as I explained earlier. So in this way, this could differentiate between the two. The next point is execution process. In case of execution of that particular product life cycle, product features are identified and roadmap is prepared as a part of the execution of a product, which means different features which are identified from the discussion or requirement analysis based on the problem statement. Those are kind of identified and split into the milestones in the form of milestone in the roadmap and are prepared as an execution of a product. However, in case of project, execution of a product can be planned and executed as a project. So it can be a product can be split into these small projects and the same can be executed as explained in point number 3. Whereas in case of a project which is not a part of a product and which is developed as based on the particular business requirement, in such situation it is run through a separate life cycle, which consists of complete SDLC to be followed. So point number 5 is planning. Product is planned considering product roadmap with MVPs. So product life cycle is completely divided into small milestones, whereby it refers to the MVP. So MVP here means most viable product, which means uh, if there are around 10 set of features in a product and multiple features are there, like for example can be split into subset whereby it can be released. The purpose of this type of approach is to speed up the release of the product feature by feature. Of course, those features has to be meaningful and are able to solve a particular problem, or some part of the problem, and able to release to the users. So that will give an multiple benefits. Like for example, we get to know more about the user's response on the part of the product. Also, by doing this type of release, it helps us to release the product from the go to market purpose uh, very quickly, and we get the feedback, and accordingly we can improve on making the other features more effective. And otherwise also the complete life cycle gets reduced from the release point of view. So in this way, planning is done of that particular product life cycle, and this is how it is moved. The project is planned with delivery milestones. Like project delivery milestones primarily looks into the starts from the requirement gathering, then design, then development, then QA, then release to UAT, and then to production. So in this way, the complete project life cycle is designed and it is planned accordingly. So it again, in the planning point of view, there are different approaches which exist in the market or the industry, in a way like which is there is a approach called waterfall model. There is approach called agile. There is approach called agile as a fast agile. So for these differentiations, we'll have a separate video and explain more about it. But we can draft a project plan around the delivery milestones of a project. The next point is growth. So, product growth is market driven, whereby based on the user feedback, response, how much effectively it is being used or accepted by the business users or market users, product is kind of act as that particular growth path. Whereas project is planned, executed, delivered, and over, which means requirement comes from the business and the project is planned for that, and accordingly it gets released to the business for the usage. Of course, if there are changes in the project which has been delivered for a particular business, it those changes are incorporated, and depending on the requirements it may have subsequent releases. Okay, and in that case, the this is how the growth path of the project is planned. Next point is time bound, which relates to the time frame in which product or a project deliveries will be planned. So, time bound in terms of product development, we can say it is a continuous process, by which it means like it has to be enhanced with the features with the based on the user experience and user feedback over the time period. In order to survive or continue to be acceptable to the market, they have to work towards the different features, functionalities which come keeps on coming into the business requirement and has to be incorporated into the product. Also, at the same time, in terms of technological evolution, it has to take care of that as well, so that it should be able to accommodate all the advanced ways of uh, building the product features or development, or in terms of programming as well. Like for example, you building the use case around the AI or data analytics type of advanced features which are the market demand for today, has to be incorporated and along uh, with the purpose of solving the business problem effectively and efficiently. So that is where the product development becomes a time bound process, and it has to be continuous in terms of growing the product. From the project point of view, it has to be driven by the target timelines, whereby project will have some requirement, business will have some requirement or some dates or timelines which they have linked with their uh, business needs with respect to their target revenues or business progress. So those timelines have to be planned accordingly from the project delivery point of view. Next point is life cycle of a product and project. So life cycle of a product viability depend on new features, stability of existing features. So basically, a life cycle of a product depends on the features which are released to the market are accepted or not, or are user friendly, or solving the main problem or not. So it all depends on the acceptability of the product. And in order to grow and maintain its life cycle, it's mandatory for a product development to be in sync with the changing environment and organizational needs, along with the technological evolution and features as to are to be considered as well. And the project execution is linked with changing business requirement from the life cycle point of view. So in this, basically, if the project is delivered based on a particular scope of requirement, after that, if there are changes in the business requirement which comes up later on, maybe after a release, immediate after release, or a 6 month or 1 year, so then in that case it will be taken into the scope, and accordingly additional development will be done for that particular project. However, from for one particular set of project requirement, in usual scenario, once the requirement is over, release is done, production movement is done, after that project moves into the support process. So the end-to-end life cycle from the delivery point of view, once the production release is done for a particular project, life cycle ends there. However, in case of product, it is an ongoing process, and with the new features, along with the new functionalities, different changing product needs, so it has to comply with all those so to be able to stay in the market. The last point is success criteria. Product has to survive in competitive environment to be successful. So as we all know, there is a lot of competition in the market for each and every product or any kind of a business case softwares which exist in the market. So in order to survive that competition, it has to come up with the enhanced features. It has to come up with more user friendliness, and it has to grow along with the changing environmental needs to be able to survive in the market and remain the successful product. On the project side, project success depends on delivery of all requirement as per business requirement. So in case of project, normally when a business requirement is met in terms of delivery, the project sign off is given by the business users or the person or organization who is getting this project developed, even if it is in-house development or externalized or outsourced development. Once the production deployment is done, business sign off is provided, the project success criteria is met. So this is all about the difference between the product and a project in the software industry. In the coming videos, we'll try to cover more topics related to the product or project development, which may include the different stages of the product development and project delivery life cycle in detail, and we'll try to cover that as a part of this video. Thank you.